Good morning and welcome to the LCI Greater Des Moines Community of Practice meeting. I am Larry Cormichael, your host and one of the co-leaders of our community of practice here in the Greater Des Moines area. It is great that you have taken time this morning. I know all of you are busy to check out this new presentation from the Lean Construction Institute. They now have 8 topics in their Lean Learning Series. We have previously presented on the first 5 months this year, and you can view all those recordings on our YouTube channel. This morning's presentation is being recorded so that we can post it again on our Community of Practice YouTube channel. Our Community of Practice focuses on connecting owners, architects, and contractors so that we can share our Lean journey and learn more about industry trends and best practices. This morning's topic, their 8th topic in the Lean Learning Series, is Why Lean? The Impact on Project Outcomes. We are very pleased to have this month's corporate sponsor, Shift Collective, and one of their executives is on our leadership team as well. So thank you again for your sponsorship, and for those interested, contact me at the email address noted, and you can sponsor one of our meetings next year as we plan next year's events. So thank you again for joining, and I see many more people have logged in. Let's give thanks to a national corporate sponsor. The communities of practice with LCI do need financial support, and the Bosch Refine My Site, the Lean Collaboration System, the conditions of satisfaction for the use of today's presentation. These materials are a copyrighted presentation by the Lean Construction Institute. Slides or materials may not be copied or used in any other way than this presentation. You may obtain a PDF file of today's presentation slides, but only if you are a participant. And the email address there is noted, and I'll share that again during the last slide when we'll ask for your feedback in a plus delta online form. So moving on with today's topic, why Lean, the impact on project outcomes. We are going to introduce the data, and for those of you in design and construction that say, show me the proof, or as said in a movie decades ago, which dates me, show me the money, what is the impact of Lean tools and principles used on the design and construction of projects? If you're looking for the data, it's here this morning, and we're glad you're here to absorb this and process this and see and hear Lean really does work. So you'll understand what owners value. And I was an owner for 8.5 years in my construction career, and I will tell you in advance, the survey results I'm going to present this morning ring exactly true with my experience as an owner's representative and an owner's agent. So I will validate today's results first person. It really is important. What does the owner value? And we're going to look at how design and construction and the designers and the contractors can close the gap. And there is a big gap between what the owner perceives on a project and what the designers and the builders perceive. And the research has shown that there's a gap there that we as designers and professional builders need to close that gap, because in the end, it is about satisfying the client, the ultimate customer, with our performance on our projects. A note for those that need AIA or AGC CM Lean or other continuation education credits, you will need to self-report, as I do for my AGC CM Lean renewal every 3 years. The Lean journey to mastery. Every presentation starts with this. You may come in this morning and say, I'm not aware of the data. Fine, you're in the right place. You may say, I'm aware that it works because I've tried Lean. You may be at the understanding, and you are now competent using Lean tools and are working toward mastery. It is a journey, not a destination. It's not a title, it's a process. And through continuous learning and continuous improvement, you become a master of one Lean skill, teach it to another, teach it to someone else, and continue the journey to be a great lean practitioner. So what is lean? Here's the definition from LCI, and I can't stress enough. It is culture of respect. People are respected at every level on the project team. It has continuous improvement threaded throughout every conversation every day. And there are many methods that use this that are lean tools. You are using these tools for what reason? To create value for your customer. And I'd like to make that customers, because if you're a trade partner and you're working under a construction manager, general contractor, you have a customer that's different than the CMGC who has the client. And if you're a designer, your immediate client is your owner of your project. And the whole point is, as a team, you manage the project to eliminate the waste. And earlier this year, we gave a presentation, an LCI Lean Learning Series on the 8 waste. You can find a recording of that 8 waste presentation on our YouTube channel, and I'll reference that at the end of the presentation. So a lean project delivery system is an organized implementation of the lean principles and tools to combine to help the team work in unison. The focus is on consistent, even workflow. These are the 6 tenets. I've just mentioned everything from respect for people, optimizing the whole, not the part. Imagine your favorite football team this past weekend, whether it's collegiate or professional. Imagine the quarterback standing out there with the other 10 players, and they all have their back turned to the quarterback, and they don't want to see nor they don't want to hear what the next play is. We as a profession have been playing the football game of construction like that. We use adversarial contractual relationships where we put up barriers and silos. Lean is the opposite. Everyone's in the same team. Everyone is trying to optimize the entire project, not just the work that's directly in their contract. The goal is to create value for the ultimate customer, and you need to define at the beginning of the project what the client values. Having been an owner's representative and an owner's agent for 8.5 years, and then I returned to general contracting, it dramatically changed my perception of what does the client value. I can tell you one thing the client doesn't value, and maybe you think they should, is your profitability. Everything else that the client values that you may not value, you need to learn what that is. Generating the value for the client is the goal. Eliminate the waste. There's the 8 waste you can go after. Look at that presentation from earlier this year and reflect with your team. How can you remove each of the 8 waste from the processes in design and the processes in construction? And the goal is to focus on continuous, even, reliable workflow. And of course, it is a culture of continuous improvement, daily reflection. There are tools that are already set up, like the last planner system, that use the daily stand-up or the daily huddle. You can continuously improve the performance on your project using the lean tools. So starting the data that supports why lean. This looks at industry efficiency. And the upper left set of bars, if you look at the 55% efficient, highly efficient, those who are unfamiliar with lean think the industry is efficient. They don't know it's inefficient. Yet if you look at the bottom, you see inefficiency, highly inefficient. The 62% of the projects that use lean see the processes as inefficient, almost 2/3. The image you see in the right side of the screen is a smart market report. McGraw-Hill Construction publishes this. I'm sure you can buy one from their website and download it. And this is where the data from the study comes from. So if you're looking for more information, this is the source. Don't stick your head in the sand like you see in the cartoon there and say everything's just fine when it isn't. Manufacturing has been lean for decades and decades, and many lean practitioners are building their projects better with higher customer satisfaction. And I'm going to show you the information that supports that. So the goals of lean design and construction, these are in every presentation. The reliability of the workflow, I call it a culture of I make a promise to you and I keep it. You make a promise to me and I keep it. And together, working together, we want to have reliable, continuous workflow. And one of the tools to measure that in the last planner system is PPC, percent plan complete. You measure how well you keep your promises. Maximize the value to the customer. What does the customer, the client, want? But for the trade partner, what does the CMGC expect? Minimize waste, as I've mentioned earlier. Optimize the whole, not the parts. Don't build a team of silos with your contracts. Build a team where everyone is sharing the risk and everyone sharing the rewards. And develop a discipline of learning and continuous improvement. Allow reasonable risk. Don't punish mistakes. Learn and improve. First, we'll look at traditional delivery outcomes. Your typical projects have had high risk, very high probability of 70% they'll finish behind schedule. Projects finish over budget. These are abysmal results for this profession. Teamwork is unreliable in the traditional method. People aren't making promises, and if they do, they're not keeping them. Customers are not satisfied. That will run us all out of business someday, and profit margins are shrinking. So let's look at this information presented in two pie charts here, time and cost. It gives you the source here. It's dated 1999. LCI has this information on their website, and I will show you the link to that at the end of the presentation, so stay tuned. So time and cost, the numbers speak for themselves. It's abysmal. 10% delivered on time and 14% on budget. We, you and I, the designers and the builders, can do better than that. And that is the challenge, is to say what we are doing now isn't good enough and that tomorrow will be better. And not that we arrive at best tomorrow, is that we arrive at better tomorrow every day. So lean project delivery enables risk to be collaboratively shared. Now, some of you may say, well, that needs to be design build. Someone else might say that needs to be IPD type contracts. I'll let you and your owners and your clients and your designers argue the pluses and minuses of how to contractually have a collaborative sharing of risk. That's not the point this morning. How do you collaboratively share the risk, which also means you should share the rewards for successful risk management. Lean tools give you a higher probability of on-time delivery, projects within budget, minimizing waste and rework. I'm sure all of you think, this is what I want on my projects. Many of you have already achieved this, which is congratulations to you that have. You want team-wide reliability. Promises made, promises kept, everyone on the team. You hold each other accountable daily, and you measure that, as I mentioned earlier, with the PPC, percent plan complete, with the team making sure everyone is reliable in their promises. You're striving toward higher customer satisfaction using lean tools and fair profits. I realized as an owner and a builder and a construction educator, profit is necessary. That is one of the main reasons we are all in business. So this is the joke from the presentation. I almost didn't recognize these old guys because I think I remember them when they were younger like I was. But what is satisfaction? Well, let's go to a response by chat. And Jenny with the Whites Company is going to read these off. First, let me cue up the question. How satisfied are you with the delivery of capital projects? And you have four choices as shown. A, very, like a rolling stone. B, somewhat satisfied. C, somewhat dissatisfied. And D, very dissatisfied, we've driven the pickup truck off the cliff. If you could type just your A, B, C, or D response in the chat box, I would appreciate that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jenny and have her just give me a quick feedback on what's getting all of the votes. Jenny?
We've got a mix of C and B. Actually, it's about half and half right now. One person says A if using IDP, D if going the traditional route. We got some more B's coming through. I think B is the overall majority, with C being a fairly close second.
Well, I appreciate you joining us so that you could share how you're doing. So some of you are kind of satisfied. Some of you are slightly dissatisfied. Out of that dissatisfaction, I hope comes your personal motivation to try lean tools and improve the performance of your project. Jenny, thank you. We're going to move on here. Owner dissatisfaction. This presentation looks at how do owners perceive the success of a project. Less than 1 in 10 owners believe they are achieving a high level of excellence in total project performance. This survey was taken 3 years ago in 2018, as noted in the lower right-hand corner. Do you believe this number as a builder, that 1 in 10 of your customers are satisfied? Those of you that have repeat customers, you are not this number. You are much better than this. That's why they call you again for the next project. I don't know where these low performance numbers come from, but for those that have been in business for decades and decades with repeat customers for generations, you are the exception to these numbers. And I congratulate you on that. Perception of inefficiency. The McGraw-Hill construction study is the source of this. Lean practitioners on the left, 62%, and non-lean practitioners on the right. A lean practitioner, 62% say the process is inefficient, let's improve it. And the non-lean practitioner says, just a few of us, 14% say the project's inefficient. Until you know what makes the project efficient and how to satisfy your client better, it is through learning and education about lean and then trying the principles and the tools that'll get you there. There's a big difference between a lean practitioner who can see the 8 waste and wants to improve and the non-lean practitioner who says everything's fine, status quo is acceptable in our organization. So the challenge to you is remove the inefficiency and move your team toward greater success. You'll see in the lower right-hand corner an image of the report. I'll let you read that one on your own. It was a study conducted in 2014 that looked at owner satisfaction and focused on schedule, budget, and quality. So looking at the pie charts, the owner looks at quality and says, frequently 66% of the time and 20% of the time, always. The designers and the contractors say, 49% of the time, we got the quality figured out. And the other 49% of the time, we're frequently there. That's not what the owner sees. Not in this survey. They don't see things the way the designers and builders do. So it makes me ask the question, what does an owner perceive as quality beyond workmanship? It may be they perceive the quality as in functionality and other performance features that we as builders and designers need to ask our clients about. Cost. Not much variance in the cost between the owners and the designers and the contractors. And this doesn't surprise me. After all, the designer signs and certifies the owner's payment application, and the owner sees the payment application. All the parties see the change request, and they all agree on a final contract value and a final payment. So there's not much disparity here between owners and designers and builders on cost, because I think it's obvious everyone sees the cost on a monthly basis and at the project's final completion. Looking at schedule, again, not a lot of variance here, except the designers and builders, 36% say we always nail the schedule, but the owners say only 12% of the time, always, is the schedule maintained. So there's a second disconnect, is that the owner's perception on schedule versus the designer and builder's team. Frequently, those are almost identical at 52% and 53%. But to look at the survey results and say, where can we as designers and builders improve, is what I hope you're thinking this morning, and see what can our team do different based on these disconnects between owners who pay all of our project bills and us as designers and builders. An owner satisfaction study was completed by the Lean Construction Institute with Dodge Data and Analytics, and this was dated 5 years ago in July of 16. And I'm not going to read this off. This is a sample of the table of contents of the report. I am going to show you a few results out of this study here in another minute, but it covers what does an owner define as value, and performance comparisons between typical and best performing projects. And it covers factors that influence performance. And both of these topics, I'm going to share some data with you in the next 10 minutes. And then it looks at high intensity versus low intensity of users of their operating methods. In other words, highly intense lean, low intensity lean. This study has produced the following information at summary level. This one absolutely does not surprise me. Having been a general contractor, construction manager, and an owner's representative, schedule was always number one. I had commercial clients that had pre-leased space. I had retail clients that wanted to open the store on time. I was the owner's representative on both sides of those. And schedule was something we talked about every week. And right behind it was cost, 57%. And some of you may say, well, why is safety in third place versus quality? My owner's hat says, I assumed every builder can build what's on the drawings and in the spec book, and the quality will be acceptable, and my punch list will be 0. I, as an owner, need the project to be safe. And when I was an owner, we were sued with everyone else on a project every time there was a construction personnel injury, whether it was a fatality, which unfortunately happened during my career, or a major personal injury. Owners, and I can tell you first person, we don't like to be sued by the family of an injured or deceased construction worker. And I agree, safety should be more important than quality. But this is an owner's perspective. You may agree, you may disagree. The survey results, I think, are in alignment with what I experienced. And I challenge you to realize, and I know that many of you have great safety records, which I congratulate you on. But this is how the owner sees it. On time, on budget, work safe, and I assume you can build the quality that I contracted with the plans and the specifications. So I'm going to ask you a rhetorical question. We're not going to use the chat feature here. Jenny is off to a project meeting. How does this align with your understanding of what is of value to owners? Not to yourself, not to your immediate supervisor, not to the owner of the company, not to the designers, not to the builders, not to the trade partners. what you understand is of value to your owners, the ultimate client that writes the checks, that pays for everything. When I left owners' representatives, went back to general contracting, construction management, I had a completely different perspective on what was important to the owner. And I had a senior VP tell me, he says, why are you paying attention to all these things the owner should be doing? I said, the owner's in another state. They visit the project 4 hours every other week. If the things they need to do aren't being accomplished on time, we as builders are going to suffer the consequences. He said, well, how do you know how to help the owner? I says, I was an owner. It is a dramatically different perspective. Some of you may have experienced this, some of you may not. I challenge each of you, how do your owners perceive value? I had to sit in the owner's chair for 8.5 years to understand owners' value. And I challenge each of you, ask your owners, what is really important to them? Some more information out of the study I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, performance comparisons between typical projects and best performing. And this doesn't say necessarily that it's lean makes best performing, but when you dig into the information, lean does lead to best performing projects. So schedule performance. There's a lot of information on this slide with the two charts on the left and right. Typical projects tend to fall behind schedule. They miss the contract completion dates. Best performing projects tend to either finish on schedule or ahead of schedule. And there's the numbers for typical in the light blue and best performing in the dark navy color. Both sets of numbers are very similar with two separate sets of data points to support them. Best performing projects finish on time. And I'm sure many of you say, I am proud our projects finish on time. Looking at budget performance, typical projects tend to have the high cost overruns, and best performing projects tend to be the opposite. They have the ability to finish on budget or under budget. And the data from the survey supports this. Looking at quality and safety performance, the item on the left, the quality of final building compared to expectation. Quality is considered 0 on a typical project. No difference. Best performing projects, 12%. And then when you look at safety during construction, 56 versus 28%. In safety for maintenance activities, similar, 42% to 28. Best performing projects have better quality and better safety records. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir when I remind all of this of that. Now, what factors influence performance on a project? Say, what could I do to make my project perform better? This survey says, number one, and I'm going to show you another chart here in a few minutes, team dynamics is the key, and team chemistry is at weight for the majority of the projects that are best performing. When the chemistry is right, the projects have high performance. I have been on projects for decades on the contractor side, the owner side, and when the chemistry is great, it's a pleasure to come in and work with the team that we're all on the same page and we all have the same goals. This information shows that perception of team chemistry, 68%. And that is the number one leading cause of success. Now, how many of you have worked, this is a rhetorical question, how many have been on a project team where you wish one of the team members wasn't on the project? We're not going to name names. I'm asking you, have you ever had a project team where someone's performance was so disruptive that you had to remove them from the project? Integration of project team members at 61%, commitment of team members to the same project goals, 54%, and timeliness of decisions, 40% versus 5%. How many have ever experienced the pain of a late answer to an RFI or a late decision on the signature on a change order? Of course, all of you have suffered that discomfort. I have. When I was in the owner's chair, I told the design team, everything gets answered on time, submittals are reviewed on time, RFI answers are as fast as you can get to them and answer them. Another question for you to consider, just reflecting, how well do you pay attention to team chemistry on your projects? The question I'm going to ask you, do you even pay attention to it? Do you really focus on building the right team? And I think most of you do. When a client asks you in an RFQ, you respond to the RFQ as a design team and as a professional builder with the resumes of the proposed team members. And you edit those resumes to expound upon that each individual's similar project experience. Well, you focus on their professional abilities, but do you consider their ability to play in the sandbox with everyone else on the team? And I'm not making light of this. Can your team members, beyond their technical skills, work together and create a team chemistry that produces a winning team? You've suffered the discomfort when it doesn't work. I hope all of you are considering team chemistry when you build the team for your next project. Now, the timing of key stakeholder engagement. I've seen this graph presented lots of different ways. I've seen it as S-curves and others. Best performing projects, 76% engage key stakeholders before or during conceptualization. And you'll notice the 42% on best projects during conceptualization, 0 to 15% of design. I hope you have experienced the value of bringing in key stakeholders and trade partners for their input during the very earliest conceptual design phase. And I challenge the designers to seek that input with your clients and the owners of your projects to bring greater value to your projects. To answer the question, how can we influence performance? These are 8 lean methods that are listed that have emerged with the most degree of difference between usage. So let's look at the first one on the chart, last planner system, 40% versus 19%. Lean projects, which tend to be more successful, last planner system is a big contributor to their success. A3 thinking is somewhat less. BIM has been around for a decade and a half, 2 decades. I think it has its place depending on the complexity of the project. 41% versus 17%. Full team onboarding, 41% versus 17%. An intentional effort to onboard the team members correctly. Moving down, conceptualization, continuous estimating is the winner here, 48% over 22%. The design team and the building team collaborate and reality check cost from conceptual design to final design and continually check it to make sure it's meeting what the owner defines as value, which would be budget. Prefabrication and modularization, I see that happening more and more. I saw first start in the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, trades. The successful MEP contractors are prefabricating electrical and mechanical and ventilation systems in larger and larger components. So they're delivered, sat on the floor, and connected. I see that is a ever increasing trend. And the challenge to the designers and the builders will be When the client asks us to prefabricate and modularize the project, how will we respond as designers and builders? Do we know how to change the design and yet still give the owner the product they want? Do we as builders know who is going to prefabricate all these modules? MEP started. Now architectural and structural prefabrication methods are being asked for, and the client, when they ask for it, expects it. It will either be you or your competitor that will deliver that to them. Target value design, the numbers are overwhelming, the same as co-location big room. And I would tell you, my first co-location big room was 31 years ago. Yes, that really dates me. In our custom-built trailer complex on a 7-building development for a corporate client, between owners' representatives, the designers, civil, architectural, interior, and others, and the construction manager, our 2 custom-built mega trailers, our daily population was approximately 100. Co-location was the only way to build this mega project of 7 connected buildings in 26 months. The single factor that most contributes to a best performing project is the correct team. I mentioned it a few minutes ago, the RFQ, the RFP process, everyone's trying to respond with the best team. So the client picks your team. Yes, you're all corporations, you have money, you have assets, you have all of this, but what the owner wants is the right team. When I was an owner, I always had this lingering fear that my boss continually reminded me of, did you pick the wrong contractor? Did you pick the wrong design team? The expectation of me as the owner's representative was select the right design team, select the right contractors, finish on time, finish on budget, finish without accidents. That was the minimum expectation. It takes the right team, and you read the rest for yourself. Building the right team. You've done it successfully. You need to build the right chemistry and the right team dynamics. High intensity versus low intensity. Here, there's a look at correlation of lean intensity on projects. Again, from the study, lean projects are 3 times as likely to finish ahead of schedule and 2 times as likely to be completed under budget. So if you say, well, that's just a simple chart, it's driven by the research data. LCI has been in existence over 20 years. They have the research. It has been studied at the academic level and others. The numbers prove it. Lean projects improve success. Correlation of lean in design. So addressing the designers that have tuned in this morning. In an industry study, Dodge Data and Analytics benchmarked best versus typical projects from designers. Very high lean intensity resulted in better outcomes, including design excellence. And on the right, circle the design excellence at 36% versus low lean intensity at 10%. Even the design can be improved. Clients have a better perception, 78% versus 37%, schedule 33% versus 8%, budget 53% versus 7%, and design excellence. And I've built projects designed by some world-class designers. And when their dream came alive, I was always amazed, and I still am. Design excellence shows through when the team works together. So this is the same chart. It's a little bit larger for you to read it. The proof is in the numbers. Now we're going to finish ahead of schedule this morning. So I really appreciate you hanging in there with me till we get to the very end here. And I'm going to present some resources for you to look at that are available from the Lean Construction Institute with a simple mouse click and a download. This is a A3 form that you can download as a PDF. I have noted that URL there. I checked that yesterday. That link works. So just go to leanconstruction.org and look for learning. And then within learning, look for research. And I'm going to show you, and I've added this next slide to the presentation. I'm going to share with you what that web page looks like and where you can find these resources. So you go to that link, it takes you to their lean research. And in the lower left corner, I have put a red rectangular box around it. There are 5 links in the lower left corner. The business case for lean project delivery. Click on that, and that will give you the resources. And then the same for the other 4. Owner success stories, practitioner's guide to lean research, LCI's lean deployment planning guide, and LCI's project validation guide. If you need information so that your team, your senior leadership needs to be persuaded and convinced that it's worth the effort to become better, it's worth the effort to adopt lean, check out these free available LCI resources. And in conclusion here, you can say, well, how can I move from unaware to awareness all the way up to mastery? What's available for me to learn to use lean tools? What are the tools? How do I use them? How can I start to understand, be a lean practitioner, become competent, and master these lean skills? These are 3 books that I have purchased and read several years ago. They helped me build my lean vocabulary, my lean understanding, and understand the culture of lean and the culture of respect. We have our local community of practice meetings every month, the second Tuesday. And at the end, I'll remind you about our meeting for next month in mid-December. Congress just took place in October of this year. It was back to live in Phoenix, and next year is held again in October, and the upcoming design forum is held in May every year. There's e-learning resources with LCI. I've taken many of their webinars for continuous education and to learn new lean skills. Here's the topics for 6 e-learning courses. If you're interested in an introduction to the last planner system or the use of the last planner system in design, there's the available resources from LCI. Go to their website and check them out. And in typical lean fashion, we will do a plus delta, but we will do the plus delta here at the end using a digital feedback form, not the chat feature. So we'll not use the chat for our plus deltas. Here's some contact information. The simplest thing is go to leanconstruction.org, follow the links. You can click on our community practice website. You can click on their e-learning. You can click on their learning and research resources. It's all available for you to learn how to be a more efficient lean practitioner. So I want to thank all of you for your attendance at our virtual monthly meeting. Follow us on LinkedIn. We post the announcements for all of our monthly meetings on our LinkedIn page. And we post them several times in the couple of weeks leading up to the next month. So that we hope that you'll see it, click on it, and sign up. And speaking of next month's meeting, the second Tuesday of December this year is December 14th. It's as late as it can be. We will have a live meeting. It will be held in Ankeny, where we've held our other live presentations. In Interstates, and we have one of their executives on our leadership team, will be presenting on the prefabrication and modularization of electrical systems in industrial projects. It should be a fascinating live presentation. Watch LinkedIn for our announcement. And again, I would like to thank Shift Collective for their financial support by sponsoring this month's meeting, and the QR code you see on the screen. If you take your smart device, open the camera, scan it, we have a very short plus delta feedback form. This Friday, in 3 days, our leaders and myself will meet, review your feedback, And we want to know what we could do to make our virtual meetings better, and also what we could do to make the in-person. And part of the feedback form is, what do you want to hear? What do you want to see? What do you want to learn in our monthly community of practice meetings? We are trying to be lean in everything, and that you, the attendee, are the customer, and you tell us what you would like for a topic in our next meetings as we plan 2022. So I'm going to leave this image up so that you can take the time with your smart device and scan it. Would really personally appreciate your feedback. And with that, I'm going to sign off and just leave this image up. And thank you for attending. I hope to see you at our live meeting on December 14th, or in our meetings that we are now finalizing for 2022.